do your very, very best, right, to relate this model to yourself, because this is essentially how I experience life. It's how you experience life. It's how we experience life. And it's also how everyone else experiences life, right? When we are not aware of this, we are not aware. As we grow to be more aware of this, we grow to become more aware. As we grow to become more aware of how it is that we are interpreting life, other people, our external worlds, our events, our situations, our own thoughts, we become naturally positioned in the driving seat of our own life, masters of our own destiny. So this is one of the foundational models as proposed by Mr. Aaron T. Beck back in the 1960s. Now this model today is actually shared in many disciplines. It's presented often in coaching and counselling, even in some of the more abstract forms of helping, such as hypnotherapy, even mindfulness, right? This model, it doesn't really matter how it's presented, allows us to better understand ourselves, right? And how we process information inside of our minds, right? So the ABC model actually represents something. The A part of this model represents activating events, right? So A equals activating events. Activating events are just simply those things that happen external to us. So external stimuli is just simply everything that happens in the outside world. The interactions that we have, it's what's happening on the news, it's the economy, it's who is doing what in the world of politics or religion, wars, rumours of wars, if there are riots going on in our hometowns or cities or nations, or kind of marches and things like that. But we're all having activating events every single day. Some people would refer to activating events as triggers, things that trigger something else. Things that happen to us that trigger emotional states. Right, I'll give you an example here. Have you ever had a conversation with someone who said, I had a conversation with this person, and as we were speaking, this person said this, and that made me feel like this. Right, okay. So I went to Starbucks just a few days ago, and I bumped into an old friend of mine called James. And James and I were talking, and we were comparing notes on how it is that our lives have progressed over the last couple of years. And James said, so Ken, what are you doing these days? And I said, well, I kind of teach 1 or 200,000 people online. Oh, I've written an international #1 best-selling book in recent years. And he said, yeah, all that Americanized self-help nonsense, is it? And I automatically went, oh, you judgmental assumption. So, what I could have said was, James made me feel so frustrated. Naughty James, bad James. But because I'm a bit more self-aware than that, I understand that in between activating events and response, there is but a choice, which we're going to be looking at shortly. So this ABC model allows us just to begin to appreciate on a very, very basic level that stuff happens, for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, till death do us part, and then something else happens, all right? We have thoughts about things. B stands for beliefs. So A stands for activating events, B stands for beliefs, C stands for consequences. So this ABC model now gives us a frame of reference for this cause and effect principle. All right, this is where things actually start getting quite serious now. I know I'm taking quite a light-hearted approach, but listen, this is life-changing stuff. All right, so take me seriously, people. So we have thoughts about things. The thoughts that we have about things will trigger the attitudes that we adopt, the rules that we place upon ourselves. What are rules? Rules are kind of like expectations, anticipation. Do you know who's actually entitled to feel happy in life? No one. Do you know who's entitled to be given a fair shot? No one. Do you know who's entitled to be unconditionally accepted and loved in life? No one. We've got to work really hard for these things. It's a choice of volition. Right, so we have thoughts about our activating events, our external experiences in life. We make rules. Sometimes people break our rules. And when people break our rules or don't meet our expectations, what happens? We sometimes take offence, we get sad, we maybe get a little bit anxious or scared or frustrated or angry or something like that. Why? Because of the beliefs that we have about how life should be for us. All right, now remember, beliefs are not universal truths. They are not grounded, invincible foundations that cannot be shaken. Right? Beliefs are just ideas, nice ideas that we've picked up at some point along the way because we haven't been presented with anything wiser or more mature yet. All right, interesting idea, isn't it? And meanings, images. Right, so what happens? Put yourself in the picture. I'll put myself in the picture here. So here I am, right? I'm looking at the world, and then something happens. Someone says something to me. So I'm now looking at this thing, right? I'm going to have some thoughts about this thing. See if you can make a well-educated guess as to what the consequence might be of my thought response. So, say for example, COVID-19 happens in the world. This results in the economy being shaken quite heavily. I think, oh my goodness, this might really negatively impact my business, my livelihood. It might impact my ability to pay my bills, pay my mortgage, my car payments, all this sort of thing. How do you think I might feel if I start thinking along those lines? Do you think I'm going to feel overjoyed? Do you think I'm going to feel excited? Do you think I'm going to feel chronically depressed? Or do you think I'm going to feel a little bit stressed, tense, a little bit perhaps anxious? I might feel a little bit anxious. Of course, right? I'm going to feel a bit anxious, am I? You can probably see that for yourself. So, what I'm hopefully showing you here, just through this one example, is that thoughts trigger something else. And this is the ABC model really kind of now starting to make sense. So stuff happens outside that we may or may not have any control over whatsoever. But if we are not aware that we actually have complete control over this, then we end up subscribing habitually to habitual thought patterns, right? Habitual thought patterns. What's an example of this? Some people habitually think doom and gloom, worst case scenario, catastrophic thinking, right? Something happens in the world. Oh my goodness, that's it. I'm going to be negatively impacted by this. My life is over. Life's not going to be worth living. It's an example of catastrophic thinking, all right? So if I think habitually, catastrophically, how's that going to have an adverse impact on my emotional state? Well, it's going to have a huge impact, isn't it? Because the C part of this ABC model, as I've mentioned, is consequence, right? Even if I'm having a conversation with James, James says, yeah, all that American jumping around motivational nonsense, feel nice nonsense, right? I could take offence at that. I could say, my goodness, you're really undermining of me, James. You're not interested in me. That's real bad. This means that you're a bad person. This means that you're really against me. This means that, oh my goodness, you're a terrible human being. Well, that's going to impact how I feel. Or I could take an alternative approach and say, okay, James, I see you're saying that. It's the best response you've got because you don't actually understand anything about what I actually teach or what I actually do with my life. So if you ask me questions, I'll give you some more information. But if you don't ask me questions, I'll just go with the humour. That's fine. It's not a problem. And I'm not compromising my own integrity doing this. It's just there's no point in giving people information if they're not interested in receiving it. Right? Some people go through life and ending up getting so upset and having their feelings and emotions crushed because someone somewhere didn't love them in the way in which they wanted to be loved, right? I'm just talking practically here. Come on. Most people in the world, well, that's a big generalized statement to make. Many people in the world, or some people in the world, whichever frame suits you best, have mummy and daddy issues. All right, can you relate? Come on. Everyone has, on some level, some degree of issue with mum and dad. All right, why? Is it because mum and dad were any more or any less perfect than what we are? Or is it just because we've focused perhaps more on the elements and the aspects of their imperfection than on perhaps how they actually positively were for us? We're meaning-making machines, all right? It's kind of like most people communicate in an A to C way. So it's kind of like B just gets kind of crossed out completely. It's like things happen which make me feel like this. Rather than what I've now proposed, as we develop the wise part of our mind, we become naturally more contemplative and reflective, rather than just blaming people and saying, the world is to blame for why I feel the way that I feel. James is to blame for the reason why I feel the way that I feel. He's a bad person. The narcissists are the bad people. The manipulators are the bad people. The bosses are the bad people. Mum and dad are bad. The church is bad. God's bad. Whatever. It's always someone else's fault whilst I feel the way that I do. Instead, CBT in this communication model actually allows us to identify how we are actually determining our consequence all of the time. Whether we're aware of it or whether we're not is a different story, but we are making choices nonetheless. All right. The only thing here is that the choices that most people make are made unconsciously, habitually. All right. Do you know what I mean by habits? Do you know what it means to have a habitual, habit in our life? It's where we just do things without thinking, don't we? Have you ever kind of got in your car if you drive, and you turn the engines on and you're going on a long journey somewhere, and at some point you kind of zone out. Now your eyes are still on the road, but perhaps an hour just passes, or 2 hours just go, and you kind of just reach your destination. And my goodness, that journey's just absolutely flown by because you zoned out completely. All right. The mind's a wonderful thing. It really is. So consequences. The meanings and the thoughts that we have about things determine how we feel. All right. Our emotions are consequences. Physical sensations in our physical bodies are consequences. Stress. Where do we experience stress or tension or anxiety? It's usually down in our stomach, isn't it? So as we become more aware of this, we can stop. Okay, so what was I thinking? What assumption have I made? Did I zone out? Have I missed something here? What rules or attitudes am I adopting that perhaps might not be being particularly helpful here? Our emotions will either be healthy feelings or unhealthy feelings. Right, that's it. It's quite black and white. I want to boldly propose here that the greatest problem that people have is not what happens to them, it's just how they feel about what happens to them. Right? People do not go to speak to mental health gurus and experts when they're feeling happy, or when they're feeling excited or fulfilled. But when they're feeling anxious, sad, stressed out, tense, maybe angry, something like that, negative emotions people have problems with, and that's when they're lining up to go and speak to the counsellors and the therapists and the energy healers and the witch doctors and the gurus. All right. So, how we feel. Remember, as we reflect back to the wise mind, the rational mind, the emotional mind model, our emotions, if we are not in control, if we are not regulating well, will trigger and determine behaviours. Right. If a person is being managed by their emotions because they have not yet learned to self-regulate, then people end up reacting to people, reacting to life, putting their foot in it, saying and doing things that they didn't necessarily mean or intend to do. And as I say, life just perpetuates. This is like a never-ending cycle, because things happen to us, we have thoughts about these things, we assign meanings onto these things, we then feel a certain way about these things, and how we feel then determines how we act or behave towards these things, and how we act or behave towards these things determines what happens next in the outside world, and what happens next in the outside world we then go on to have more thoughts about, and the cycle continues until we become a bit more self-aware of ourselves, and we step in and we break the cycle.